Oh, well, you better answer.
Help. I've lost the passage, but it's about bearing fruit. Bearing fruit, bearing fruit, bearing fruit. The sixth day, it's in Genesis, seventh day. No, it won't be the seventh day. Anyway, there was fruit. Seed bearing. Here we go. Sorry, as we were. Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. Right, so that's Genesis. Fruit. We're talking about bearing fruit. Now, this is Colossians. Right, and we pray. This in order that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and may please him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. So that's Colossians. And then this is the passage I really want. The vine and the branches, chapter 15, John. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. If a man remains in me, and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he is like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire and burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be given you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Amen. Lighting's best sort of here, I think. Somewhere here. Small. There, I think. Get it, right. Well, I can barely add to that, quite frankly. Again, one of the most beautiful passages in the whole Bible. John chapter 15, from the beginning to verse whatever. The fruit comes from performing the works that God has already prepared for us. Through his grace, not through our will. He has prepared for us works already. God has prepared for us works already. And the fruit is of those works that we perform in his world, but that are already there. So I'm here in St. Albans, and Alban was martyred in mid-whatever, 200 AD, something, 250 or whenever it was. The works God has performed through the fruit of Alban's martyrdom. He was converted by a man called Amphibolus and saw the light of Christ, and then refused to kowtow to the the Roman general or whatever. He was a centurion, so, had a red cloak, I think. Amphibolus escaped with the cloak, but they got Amphibolus later, actually. Topped him as well. Anyway, Alban refused to deny Christ, and then the beauty is he was the first British martyr. Here we are, 1750 years later, and there are now Alban churches throughout the world. So you don't know what works, what you do here and now today, how that will be put to God's service when one goes. St. Francis, whom I love, in his lifetime knew how much he'd achieved through his love of God through Christ. Likewise, St. Benedict, who I've avoided becoming a Benedictine monk. I've got a thing about Gregorian chant and the Benedictines and whatever, but he must have known that he was blessed. I watched a film about St. Patrick, very good, pretty modern, contemporary film, on YouTube. It's free and very well acted and so on, but Patrick, who was about 450 AD, knew in his lifetime of what he'd achieved. What matters is, thy will be done. You perform God's will to the best of your ability, not your will. So to your best understanding of what God's will is for you. And believe me, one can get it wrong. So keep trying, and bear in mind those words about bearing fruit. Christ says, I am the true vine. Anyone who remains in me, then they will bear much fruit. Amen. Oh, I like the rock. Silly me. Rock, that's a rock on head of man. Silly ass.